Hattie, and I am back with another speed build. So today I'm going to be building a base game home, which was requested quite a lot on my channel. So I decided to do one, and I think that it was a really nice idea, especially as I really wanted to build a house which everybody can enjoy. As long as you have The Sims 4, you can download this house and you don't need anything for it. So it contains no stuff packs, no game packs, no expansion packs. It is purely base game, and it was very difficult for me to do, but I did do it. And if you do want to see more of these, then please let me know, because I would definitely be happy to build another one of these, maybe a little bit different to this. If you wanted to see a Tudor home instead, or a different style of one of my builds, then just let me know in the comments below, because I'm always interested to hear about what you want to see next on my channel. So this house is called Beryl's base game home, and the reason is because it's named after one of my supporters, Rainbow Nova's great grandma. And she lost her great grandma recently, and her great grandma used to enjoy watching her play The Sims. So I really wanted to build a house for her, and I hope that it will bring back some pleasant memories. The intentions that I had for this house was to make it a family home, and I wanted to make it really, really big. So as you can see at the moment, it was starting to get very, very big and unmanageable, to the point where it was slowly becoming a mansion. And I think with the roofing as well, that was really where I started to realise this is humongous. This house isn't really going to have much of a back garden. But then I thought to myself, does it need a back garden? And could I just have the garden at the front instead? And I actually really liked that idea, because when it went to building the front garden, I had it so that all the activities for the family, and there were some children's climbing frames at the front of the house. And that really meant that the neighbours could walk past, and the Sims that live here, if you do decide to download this house on the Sims 4 gallery, they can walk past and your Sims can socialise together. And it's a really nice social house, which I love. I love that fact about the build. I think that it's a really nice feature, and it's something that I don't think that I have done before, or at least I haven't drawn so much emphasis to the front of the garden, because I usually like a nice secluded garden at the back. But anyway, what I was doing is I was putting in the staircase at the front here. I also wanted to have a seating area just before you get to the actual bit of the house. I wasn't really sure what I wanted to include here, but you could definitely have some plants out there, or even skill building items if you wanted to. I just wasn't really sure, and I think in the end I probably ended up with some seats, and that was probably all I put there. But you could add an arts easel to it if you wanted to. It is on the Sims 4 gallery, so the links will be below to my Origin account, and you can go and download it off my profile if you want to go and do that. And what I was doing as well is I was trying to figure out the colour. So I thought, instead of experimenting with various brick textures, I would paint the whole build white and then see where it went from there. And that's exactly what I did. I just painted it all white, which meant that I would just colour in bits as I went along, which is what I started to do here, even though I wasn't happy with this brick colour. And in fact, I can't remember using a lot of it in the finished build. I think the finished build itself was really styled off a typical American suburban home, which I am very, very much into at the moment. I love American suburban homes. I haven't, of course, explored many areas in America, and I'm not sure what each individual area looks like. But to the areas which I have visited, which are California and Florida, in fact, they're the main areas which I visited. I have visited other places as well, but I think the suburban houses which I have typically seen in Florida, I would very much imagine a house to look like this home by the end, minus the brick, because it doesn't end up with a lot of brick, but it does end up with lots of paneling on the side of it. So you will see that in the end, and you will probably see what I mean by that. But I think if I was going to recreate a full Floridian styled home, I think that's what it's called, I don't know, I would then make a very pale house. So if you want to see that, if you want to actually see how I would make a Florida styled home, then let me know, because that is something that I can think about doing, and it's something that I'm definitely thinking about doing at the moment. I'm also thinking about a new series which I can try out on my channel after my film series is finished. So if you have any ideas, then please let me know, because I would love to hear what you think in the comments below. What I was doing at this point is I was going around the build and I was adding some pillars. I love pillars, and I think my favourite ones are those squarish ones. I just adore them. I use them in all my suburban builds, and I didn't want to leave them out on this build spiral, so I was definitely going to use them one way or another. I was just going to use them and I love them. I think that on their own they look terrible, but when they've got paneling around them like I'm doing now, I think they look a lot better, and I was pretty happy with how it looked in the end of that. Then what I was doing is I was readjusting the door. I can't remember how the door ends up looking. I might have even left it like that, but I'm not too sure. And then what I was doing is I was adding a fence round to the bits of roofing that you can't see, and that would enable me to use more paneling. So as if we didn't have enough already, I thought I would add a little bit more there, and that's what I was doing. Then I was onto the windows of the build. I wanted to include lots of humongous windows, and my reasoning for that was when I was younger, I used to live near a house which had the biggest front window that you could ever imagine. I think the window itself was probably about 3 stories tall, and you could see the family moving around the house. Even if you weren't looking directly at them, it was so difficult to miss because I used to drive past their house every single day, and I'm not a nosy person because I do respect people's privacy, but oh my gosh, you could just see at the corner of your eye them moving around or walking down the stairs, because the window was directly over their staircases, which was a huge spiral. So it was a very unusual house, but I was thinking a lot about that house and how amazing it would be to recreate something a little bit similar to that in The Sims 4. Maybe I will do that at some point, I don't know. But I do enjoy putting big windows in, mainly because I like to think about the light that it would give the house itself. And I don't know if larger windows do give you more light in The Sims 4 than smaller windows. I haven't tested that, and it would be really interesting to see if it does. But I really do enjoy putting larger windows in, mainly because I like the feel of more light, and I also enjoy the fact that it does look a lot more open and it looks like a safe area. It looks like a homely area, the area that it's situated in, and I think that if I were to decorate this whole area with similar looking builds, it would look really unique, and I would be very happy with that. So maybe I will at some point. Maybe I will make a whole suburban neighborhood which would look a lot like this house, and I'd make smaller versions. I don't know what I'll do. We'll see what happens. What I was doing though is I was still experimenting with the colours. I was then changing a lot of the colours to a paneling colour because I thought paneling was something that I really like, and I think for a suburban home, this is what I would imagine. I think that a pale suburban home would be lovely. I was then just putting in some details, and I was just having a general mess around with different windows. I thought about putting a window at the top of the build, but then I didn't like it. And then I was onto the landscaping because I was very stuck on the colour, and I thought if I'm stuck on the colour, then I will do the landscaping first, and then I'll come back to the colour and see what colours go with the plants and what doesn't. So that is what I did, and that method did actually work out for me in the end. So if you are stuck on a colour to pick for a build that you are doing, I definitely recommend doing the landscaping first sometimes, taking your mind off it and then going back to it, because that's what I sometimes like to do. What I was doing though is I was adding lots of the same plant around the sides here. I really enjoy putting this plant in. It's one of my favourite plants, and I always use it just because I love it so much. I always have used it, and I just think it looks lovely in an environment like this, and I think that it does give something, and it does look a little bit messy as well, which I definitely wanted because I don't want the gardens to look too tended in this case. I really like the idea of making it look a little bit wild, which I definitely want to focus more on, especially as it has been quite requested of me to do an Alice in Wonderland inspired garden. So I think I will do something like that at some point as well. I've got a lot of ideas on my channel that will be coming up in the future. What I was doing though is I was experimenting with the different plants I could use, which was very difficult because I could only use base game plants, and a lot of the base game plants are just green, and that's very tricky, and I wish that we had more choice. What I did use was these huge white ones, and I just enlarged them because I think enlarging plants as well, it just gives a better effect overall, and I really like the idea of them being enlarged. It also saves a lot of money when it comes to it. If you are worried about saving money and you still want landscaping on your builds, if you are playing without cheats, then that's what I'd recommend. You could always enlarge plants, and that will save a lot of money in the long run, and if you still want landscaping, that is the best way to do it. So that is what I did there. I did include a lot of pinks for the garden because I really like those pink plants, and I wasn't aware that they were the base game plants because I really like those, and I was happy with that, to be honest. I think pink's a nice colour for this build, and it does brighten it up a bit, and it does give that a little bit of a feminine touch to it, so I enjoyed putting that in. I was then just filling up the landscaping parts with more plants. I like to make it look elevated, so I just keep adding plants to these areas, and eventually if I keep adding more and emerald plants, it will look as if it's on a completely separate layer, and I really like that. Then I was experimenting with the rocks here. What I was doing with the rocks is I was making them look odd. So I was putting down some copperish coloured rocks, and then I was putting in some silvery rocks in between the copper rocks, and I think it gave a really overall amazing effect, to be honest. I wasn't expecting it to look like that, and I think it turned out a lot better than I did expect, because I haven't done anything like that before and I liked it. So maybe I will experiment a little bit with that in the future. I think it does give a little bit of a mismatched look and I liked it, so that's what I did there. I then put some ivy around the build. I just used the standard flower pots, which I usually use. I use them quite a lot when I'm doing normal landscaping, as I would with the Sims 4 Get Together expansion pack stuff. And also the romantic stuff pack, I use a lot of ivy and different items from that now. So as I would normally, I just put it round, and this is something that I did do when I was building base game houses, or houses that I built before the Sims 4 Get Together came out and we didn't have the ivy from that, and various other ivy styles that I made. So I was having a lot of fun with that. I did want to incorporate a lot of it in, because I know that a lot of people do like this ivy style and I like it too. I really missed doing this, so it was a nice reminiscence of the times which I did do ivy before the Sims 4 Get Together came out, before my life completely changed and I do ivy completely differently now. But that is what I was doing there. So I was putting it all around. I didn't want to miss out the back, so I put quite a lot of it around the back as well. And I put it with some roses, some white roses I put there. So I liked that effect and I was happy with that. I thought about putting some ivy at the top there, but I did actually leave it out in the end, mainly because I didn't want to overpower it. And I thought by putting ivy in the middle, it just changed the whole look of the house, and it didn't make it look like a suburban home. It made it look a little bit like an old Tudor home, and I didn't want that for this build, so that's what I decided to leave out in the end. Then what I did is I discovered this brown colour, and I haven't used this brown colour for a very long time. In fact, I think one of my really old builds, Meadowview House, was the last time that I used this brown colour, and I forgot about it, and I forgot how much I really enjoyed using it. And Meadowview House was one of my first videos that I ever posted on YouTube. It was a very old video, but I still like the house and I still think that it is a nice home. It's a suburban house just like this one. It's a smaller build, and I think that overall they do match a little bit. So I think that this house is probably a lot more improved than that home, especially as I have been building for a lot longer now and I have improved my build style. Of course, I'm improving every week as I do continue to build. I really think that I am. So I liked it, and it brought back a lot of memories of when I started YouTube, and it made me think about some of my older videos. But what I was doing is I was finishing it off by putting in a car at the front, which I did by just enlarging a normal standard toy car, and I think that that does give a nice look to it. I think that even though we can't have cars in The Sims 4, I still like the idea of The Sims driving, and I think that it would make a more accurate looking house. So I definitely wanted to include one of those at the front, and I think that it does give something to the driveway. It makes the driveway look a little bit better than it did, so I was happy with that. I was then also just putting in a pirate children's climbing frame because I wanted it to match the house, and I thought that those colours of the pirate ship really matched the home, so that's why I put that one in there instead of just the children's climbing bars. I put the big one in and I was happy with that decision. Then I was just putting some potted plants around the side here, and that is the end of the build. So I really hope you enjoyed it, and I hope to see you all for part 2. Thank you so much for watching, and I'm going to show you the screenshots now.